Hello friends, this is Caly. Thanks so much for joining me today for a simple scene card using the Aurorable Friends stamp set. Let's get started here and we will go through each process together. I'm going to start by stamping my images, the images that I'm using from the Aurorable Friends stamp set. I'm going to use 1 to 2 colors on each dinosaur depending on whether or not they have stripes and lines and all that. So we will get started with this one here. I'm going to be using orange and pink. And so starting with the orange or yellow, we're just going to add the darker color first and then shade those areas where they would have darker shading, and then we will go in with the lighter color and then blend that out. Since the yellow is a little bit smaller in area, we're just going to use 2 colors for that. However, on the bigger body part of the dinosaur, I'm going to use multiple shades of pink. So we've done the same there, and we'll talk about this long neck here. It's kind of the same process. So I'm applying those darker colors in those nooks and crannies where there would be lots of shade and shadow. And then I'm going to go in with a medium shade, just blend that color out just a little bit more. So on these bigger images, I am using 3 to 4 shades of the same color family just to help me with blending it out. Now if you only have 2 markers or 3 markers, it's just a little bit more work, but it's the same idea. It will just be a lot more blending for you. So you can definitely achieve almost the same look with 2 markers versus the 4 that I'm doing here. I am just blending it with the lightest color, and if you feel like you need more contrast, feel free to go back with darker shades and then continue to work it until you're happy with how your image looks after it's colored. Alright, so we're going to move on to that pterodactyl once we're done with that long neck. So I am just going to use one color for this dinosaur because there aren't multiple parts and shapes to his body. So once more, we are adding the darkest color in the bottom corners first of all of the body parts, and then blend them out with the medium shade and then a lighter shade and then another lighter shade if you've got more than 3 markers or 4 markers to blend with. So that is the same process for every part of the coloring process. I know that was a quick run through, but it really is a simple process and you just have to apply the same rules for every image that you color. So once I've die cut those images, I'll just go ahead and set them aside to begin working on my scene. So for this grass panel here, I've die cut it using the tucked in turf horizontal dynamics, and I have die cut it in a light green, in gumdrop green cardstock, and I'm just going to ink blend using a darker ink in Field Day so that I can add some green shadows and shading to these grass tufts that are popping out on this die cut panel. So after I've done that, I'll go ahead and create a more scenic look by using the snowdrifts dynamics in the background. And I've die cut that out of grout gray, and I'm just going to ink blend a little bit of brown over it just to give it some color and make it look like mountains in the background, if that makes sense. So I've die cut the 2. I didn't want to snip them apart and thought that it would give the scene more dimension to keep the 2 together. So I've temporarily attach them together using some Scotch adhesive on the back there to hold them together. And then for the very back panel, I wanted to do sun rays. So I've ink blended half the panel with some yellow, and now I'm going to place the stencil over that yellow and then ink blend a darker yellow or light orange to create those sun rays by lightly ink blending over that. And I'm trying not to make it too intense because I kind of want it to fade into the outer edges. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and trim this panel down because I want it to match perfectly with the other 2 panels that I'm going to adhere with this one. So after we've trimmed that, I'm going to go ahead and adhere the other 2 panels to it. I'm going to take those 2 elements that I created and just line them up and make sure I know exactly where I want them. I'm going to apply that mountain scene in the background directly over the sun portion of those sun rays, and make sure I have everything in place before I adhere that down. And then for the grass, I wanted it to have some dimension, so I'm adding some foam tape, being careful not to add adhesive where I want to be able to tuck in any images in those grass tufts. So I've applied that down and I've decided to tuck in this long neck. So we're going to go ahead and adhere him down first. Since the green panel has foam dimension underneath it, I'm going to make sure to attach a little piece of foam to his head so that everything is adhered well to this panel. I want to give my T-Rex some dimension as well as the pterodactyl, so I'll be adding foam adhesive to them before adhering them to my card as well. Then the next step would be to add the sentiment. So I'm going to put this panel into my MISTI. I don't know why, but I like to stamp my sentiment last, and my MISTI allows for stamping of sentiments even if there's dimension on your card. So that's really nice for me. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp my sentiment there in the top left hand corner and then apply that to a card base that I've already prepared off camera. And the last thing to do is to give these images a little bit more interest by adding some gel highlights. So I'll go ahead and do that, and then that finishes my card. I hope you enjoyed today's simple scenic card using these Aurorable Friends set. Thanks so much for stopping by. I appreciate your time and for watching, and I hope you all are taking care and have a wonderful day. Bye everyone.